Good early morning, everyone. It's fairly early when I make this post, which is odd for me because I don't usually do that. But I woke up this morning and saw something that made me kind of sad. Val Kilmer passed away. And I only bring this up because I got a buddy of mine on Facebook, J.K. Tolkien. He posted his 5 favorite Val Kilmer movies in no particular order. And I was thinking about how I put one up about Westerns and I completely forgot about Tombstone, which is probably one of the greatest ones ever because of Val Kilmer. So I thought I would just take this opportunity to just kind of be like, oh man, that's a bummer. And we're all sorry to see him. I know that's just awful, right? He had a tracheotomy, I knew that. I didn't see the new Top Gun. I don't even remember if I saw the first one, but I know he was in it, right? Iceman, I think he was. But that's just... And he was in a lot of good movies too. As my friend pointed out, Willow, right? He was in Willow. Thunderheart, which was a movie I hadn't thought in a long time, but he had a really good list there. And I got thinking about that myself, and I'm like, if I had to think about the movies of Val Kilmer, he was kind of hit or miss. Because when he was younger, like I saw Real Genius in the theater, right, where he was like this brilliant guy, and this nerd goes. It was an '80s kind of college movie, but not Revenge of the Nerds college movie, if you know what I'm talking about, right? But that one was pretty good. And Top Secret, which is still funny. It's the vein of Airplane and the same guys, but it's where he's, they're fighting Nazis, and it's just like it's got a lot of good lines in it. And you see a lot of clips show up on TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff. But no, that was a good one. But I got thinking, man, I think his best movie. My dog's barking. He likes Westerns. It's probably Doc Holliday from Tombstone. Or it's a tie. But if anyone remembers the Oliver Stone movie, The Doors, where they had Val Kilmer playing Jim Morrison, I thought that movie influenced some of my musical tastes because I was but a young lad at that time. And I remember watching that movie and just being like, holy fuck, this guy is just like, I am the Lizard King, and he's like dancing, that can't be real. And then you read up on some of the stuff at that time. He couldn't do it like he could now, but I mean, he gets arrested, he's doing all this weird stuff, right? Even after he dies, there's all these rumors, and, it's an amazing story. And I thought Val Kilmer, man, you could see he might be a difficult dude for how he immerses himself in those roles, right? Like Christian Bale, I think it's probably the same, where it's like you're just, Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like you can absorb almost what someone is and present it, but I imagine that has a toll on you with your loved ones and people in your circle, because it's like, fuck, this guy is just like, method, But there's The Doors, there's Tombstone, right? I remember one of the movies I was really disappointed in because I really thought it was going to be awesome was The Saint. It was a remake of an old Roger Moore TV show, the show he had before he became James Bond in the 70s, but it was a black and white. He was like a gentleman kind of spy, or a gentleman kind of, helps people out. Like, it was one of those kind of movies, right? And it was Val Kilmer was in it, where, he has disguises, he doesn't kill anybody, but he's just like, right, he goes, takes care of the issues and whatever. Right, and that movie sucked. That was awful. I think it was him and Elizabeth Shue, and it was horrible. It was not a good show. And then he kind of made some really weird movies. He made a good one with Michael Douglas, In the Heart of Darkness, which was a very, very good movie. If I had to pick a third or a fourth, to be that one, as well as Thunderheart, where he goes back to his reservation and they try to solve a crime. That one was a very good show. Actually, I'd like to watch that again. That was a great movie, right? It had some Canadian folks. That Green was in it. And it was set, I think, in the 70s, 60s. I can't remember what the setting. Anyways, now I gotta check that out. But no, that'd be pretty good, right? So you got those ones. You got the Doors, right? You got Tombstone. You got the Thunderheart. You got In the Heart of Darkness. And I'm not gonna say Batman Forever, because as bizarre as that movie was, Jim Carrey made that movie a success, right? When you're how old was I? I was a teenager. When you're watching that movie and it's just so stupid that you can't, you're like laughing, right? Like, that made that movie. He made that movie. He made a lot of movies, but he definitely made that one. It wasn't Tommy Lee Jones, but Val Kilmer played that part pretty cool, right? And there was, and I'm going to say for number 5, and this is going to be kind of weird because this is how it turned into my own top 5 list. But that's how I handle things. It's a movie from the early 2000s called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And it's him, and it's Robert Downey Jr., where Robert Downey Jr. is a thief. And he's got, and Val Kilmer is, I believe, a police officer, and he's gay in the movie. And what happens is that Robert Downey Jr. is a criminal, and he did this big kind of theft, and he runs away from the cops, but he accidentally runs into like a production of something, and he ends up, kind of auditioning there. And Val Kilmer, I believe, is the film's consultant from the police department who helps him. So, and they got to work in there together. And it's a very good movie. It's written by the same guy that did Lethal Weapon. It has that kind of tone to it. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek kind of humor, and that was an awesome, awesome show. I always been in a lot more, but, man, if you ever see The Isle of Dr. Moreau, which I saw at the theater, it was Val Kilmer. It was Marlon Brando, who had an ice bucket in his head, and like the world's smallest man was like sitting on his shoulder. It was kind of like Return of the Jedi, when he had, Jabba the Hutt there, and he had that, not Princess Leia in the metal bikini. That's untouchable. But it was that little guy sitting on the shoulder, and he's like, right, that guy. And I'm just like, it was a movie about, if you ever read the book, right? So basically, a guy is an island. A guy goes out to see him, and you find out he's been genetically splicing, like, animals with people. So they have, like, or basically accelerating evolution. So pigs, there's, like, half pigmen and all this kind of stuff. And it's a very weird, but the movie itself is, like, I don't know. It seems like that would be a hard drug trip. I think that movie, I remember seeing it at the theater, and it was like, oh, man. And a friend of mine were talking about it a couple weeks ago. He goes, hey, do you remember this movie? And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of burned in my brain just how awful it is. And Val Kilmer was like the, like the security dude, the hunter guy. I don't know what it would be like every kind of movie. He wouldn't be like, if this is Jurassic Park, he wouldn't be like, the new ones. He wouldn't be like Chris Pratt. This guy is just like, I don't know. It was just an awful kind of thing, and you didn't see him in much. I remember he played the villain in the movie MacGruber, which is one I probably, oh man, guilty pleasure movie. I've seen that movie probably about 50 times. It's like, it's so horrible. It's got the line that gets me every time is when he hits a guy with the truck and kills him. And he gets out and he goes, like Leroy Schwaba, whatever. Dead at the age of who gives a fuck, right? And the guy who's with them, Ryan Fleet, goes, hey, did you just smack talk that dead body? What? Right? Because it's so stupid, right? But it's just like, anyways, he was the villain in that show, Dieter von Kunz. So you can kind of see where maybe his choices got a little strange, but then, don't all of us go through that? right? So yeah, no. Anyway, that's awful news. Those are, I think, go see Thunderheart. Check out The Doors if you want to see some really good Val Kilmer shows. Those are the ones I think I would recommend. Those are very, very good. And In the Heart of Darkness, him and Michael Douglas, that's a good connection right there. Okay, all right. Take care of yourselves. If you thank you for watching to the end. If anyone did, please share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment, especially. Let me know your favorite Val Kilmer movies. What do you think of when you think of him? That kind of stuff. Okay? All right. Take care. Be good to one another. And I'm off to work. All right. Goodbye.